back with me, Jesse Weber, Misty Marris, and Johnna Spielberg, all attorneys. Jesse, you think there's any hope?
I don't see it. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, of course, we've had cases before where a murder conviction could be vacated, a manslaughter conviction could be replaced. I first look at the note. You could argue if he was planning to kill his parents, that note would have been convenient, right? I think there's more value in the testimony, this account from 2023. But remember, it's not actually about the brothers. It's about that individual. I think that this is too disconnected to warrant a new trial.
But what's interesting about the note, I mean, the notion that somehow he would have done it on purpose to cover, the theory was that Lyle was the main person, right? And Lyle sort of gets Eric involved in this. So the notion that Eric would have written a note 8 months before to cover for something that Lyle was going to sort of later convince him to do, to me, seems pretty far-fetched.
Yeah, I actually could see a new trial in this case. I think these two critical pieces of evidence, if presented to a jury, could absolutely be influential. Remember, that's one of the standards on appeal. If there's new evidence, does it matter? This could truly matter. So the question becomes, why wasn't it available at the time? Was it readily available? Why wasn't it admitted then? We know that it's been found so much later, and that affidavit coming out in the course of another case. So I actually think this one has a decent shot on appeal.
The standard is very high, Johnna, to get a new trial.
It is, but I agree with Misty. And how about this? How about no new trial? How about the prosecution taking a look at this new evidence and allowing them to be released, vacating the original judgment? Get these guys out. How long has it been? Get these guys out of prison, right? And we could do it that way and save the taxpayers a lot of money.
Well, I think when I was reading about this, they said the reason that this didn't come in earlier is because he felt shame, right? It felt shame, and I don't know if that's enough. It would be one thing if, like, the defense attorney did not do his due diligence, right, and could have found this, didn't introduce it.
Well, but in the second trial, this was introduced. I mean, the second trial, the defense was he abused us,
but not the note. The
note didn't come in. Here's
it corroborates it.
Right.
Here's a little bit more of Lyle Menendez. This is number 2 on how the abuse started. This is from in 1993.
Just started with after sports practices, he would massage me. And we would have these talks, and he would show me, and he would fondle me, and he would ask me to do the same with him, and I would touch him, and we would undress.
Where would this take place?
In my bedroom.
But the bottom line is, Misty, that jurors were afforded the opportunity to hear that, and they didn't believe it.
Right, and now, though, there might be evidence to corroborate that. And the other piece of this is that the question is, why not come forward about the abuse before the trial, right? Why wasn't it reported? Why didn't you try and stop it before going to this extreme step? But there's a whole new mentality about that now. We've seen it in litigation. Statutes around the country, these look-back statutes that open up, and I think there's definitely a chance for them if this goes back to the courtroom.
Let me play a little bit from Eric Menendez, because, again, the note that we're talking about was written by Eric Menendez. This is number 3.
Almost all the times with the sex, I would say to myself, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to stop it. As soon as he comes into my room, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to jump on him. I imagine myself on a ledge, jumping down on him, all kinds of things to stop the sex. And whenever he came into the room, I just crumbled, and I couldn't do it.
You know, as we listen to the testimony, it's, you know, now that we have this new evidence, it's a little more heartbreaking than it is. You know, at the time, I think a lot of people were like, oh, come on.
Right.
These guys are just making it up. Because, again, as Misty points out, they didn't say it at the outset, right? It took them a while. It took it, you know, a second trial, et cetera.
Yeah, the juries in this case had to wholesale think that they were just flat out lying, that it was a fantastical lie in order to convict them of what they did. Attitudes have changed over the last 3 decades. And if this were happening now, I'm not convinced that they would be convicted. This new evidence is important. I hate predicting, but they're probably going to see the light of day.
And look, I think Johnna makes a good point about why not the prosecutors just say, you know what?
Yep.
You know, we don't need a new trial on this.
If they can get an evidentiary hearing set up and the judge listens to this, we've seen cases before where prosecution's like, I'm not taking this trial. Good point. We'll enter a plea deal. We'll do manslaughter. You get out of prison. It's a possibility. Yep.
Absolutely. Definitely a possibility.
Do you think it's going to happen?
No, I think we're going to go through the appellate process.
Yeah.
I suspect this will go through the appellate process. Nobody's going to do it
Because
voluntarily.
it doesn't negate the other evidence that this was planned. You had mentioned it, the financial motive. I mean, again,
They went and bought expensive things afterwards, and
If there was something directly connected to the day of, I would say maybe, but not this.
And there's so much hesitation to overturn a jury verdict, which is why I see it going through the appellate process as opposed to through prosecution.
Yeah.
Prosecutors making a decision.
But I'll tell you, if it's true, they ought to. This is a classic manslaughter case.
Yeah, because it's like the heat of passion.
Yeah, I mean, not even the heat of moment. I mean, even if, because look, there had to be, I think, some degree of planning here, right? I mean, in terms of the guns, et cetera. But if the dad was abusing them, I am confident a jury would have a level of sympathy to not convict of murder.
Absolutely.
If everything that they were saying was true. All right. Everyone's going to stick around. Still ahead.